Hello YouTube and welcome to the channel. Now then, today's video is going to be concerning this baby, Wltoys 124018. Now long story short, a chap's got in touch with me about this buggy. What's basically happened is it's burnt the motor out. He's tried to repair it, but you can't. These are non-rebuildable, these motors are, and you can't really do anything with them. So he contacted me and asked me if I could convert it to brushless. Now this is the first brushless conversion I've ever done, so I've agreed to do it. We've got a load of bits and pieces like a brushless ESC. I've got to solder some little connectors on to certain bits and pieces. We've got a whack off great big brushless motor. I'm keeping the numbers low as regards to amps of the ESC, etc., because obviously I'm new to this, don't want anything to explode or melt. So what I normally like to do, the first job before we get into it, is set the electronics up off the buggy, and then once that's done, we'll install it all, and I'll show you hopefully what I'm doing and where I'm going wrong possibly. Now the first job I've had to do is drill out the old grub screw in the pinion gear, which is always a pain in the arse. But my next job is fire the soldering iron up and solder some of these 4mm gold ESC connectors onto the ESC, so that will allow it to plug straight in to the motor. So do that. I'll get the soldering iron fired up, and we'll get into it. Okay, that's the connectors soldered on. It wasn't too bad of a job. The soldering iron I've got is, I can't remember what wattage it is, 100 watt. It's a right beast, this thing is. You've got to be ever so careful with it. But for jobs where you need to heat quite a large lump up, it's indispensable really. Right, I'm going to go ahead and put some heat shrink on, because we don't want anything touching, do we? Don't want anything going bang just yet. So I'll do that. And then we're going to have a look at this motor mount, because I believe that it wants straightening out. Now before I swap electronics on any RC, I like to make sure everything works off the vehicle before I go and install it, which sort of makes sense really. And I'd strongly advise that you do the same just in case. Now I've connected everything up. We've got the ESC connected to the motor. We've got everything, we've got the ESC etc. connected to the receiver. How I remember where the different connectors go to the receiver, it's one for turn, two for burn. So if you remember that, the port 1 is normally steering, port 2 is normally ESC, motor, etc. So 1 to turn, 2 to burn, that's how I remember it. Everything seems to be working. Like I say, my only concern at the moment is that this ESC might not be powerful enough to run this motor. Like, I'm not a mega expert with brushless setups. This is my first time, but everything seems to be working. Nothing's melted yet, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start installing it in the car. So our next job is to rescue this motor mount off our burnt out can. If you are at all familiar with Wltoys, you'll know that they use this adhesive stroke cement to glue everything together with, and I swear down you can actually glue the two halves of the Titanic back together with it. So what I'm going to do, I've got a little burner. I'm going to try and heat up these or the surrounding area, see if I can melt the glue, and then we'll try and unscrew them. And then, I don't know if you can see there, the chap's actually bent the mount when he's tried to take the motor apart. So if we can bend it back, that'll be fantastic, but otherwise it might need a new one. Okay, this is where we're at. I've managed to sufficiently straighten out the motor mount, so I'm in a position to use it again. I've put the pinion gear on, which was a very, very tight fit, and I've thread locked the grub screws and the 2 bolts that hold the mount onto the motor. Now, what I'm going to do next is try and install it in the car, so that'll be the next job. Well, that's the motor and the chassis. It was a little bit of a faff because I had to cut the housing away a little bit to clear the new grub screw I put in. But I'm just sort of mocking up the final positions of the electronics. I've connected up and installed the servo, 3-wire servo, which is working great. I've run the motor just to see if it's fouling or makes any horrible noises. It's a bit rough, the transmission's a bit rough, but I don't think that's anything to do with the motor. I think it just might be this RC, but it seems to be working okay. So what I'm going to do is sort of sneak the body on and just have a think about where I'm going to put all the rest of the electronics. I think that's pretty much the final position. Okay, so I've pretty much finalised all the positions of the electrical components. I've done my best to tidy everything up. I had to make a few modifications. I had to move the ESC back slightly because it fouled the servo arm there, and I've just had to chop a bit of the top bodywork off to get all the sort of wiring underneath it, really. I mean, I might at some point see if I can't reinstate those little drivers there and get them to fit back in. And I've also got the roof mounted lights and etc to put back. Well, not roof mounted lights, but the actual piece of bodywork that goes there. But I'm just about to attach the bodywork to the chassis now, put the wheels on, and then we'll just take it for a little gentle spin, see what it's like. But I'm actually waiting. The bloke's actually got some other bits and pieces that I need to actually finish it off, so I am waiting for those. But I'll go ahead, do all those bits and pieces that I can now, and get back to you. Now, before we go any further with the video, I'm just going to bring you up to date with an issue that I had. Now, the other night I did take it out for a quick spin outside. Everything seemed fine. Brought it in. It's had a slight cogging issue, so I've got a little programming card that's been lent to me here. I thought, well, if I plug that in and try and turn the start mode up to strong, it might just get rid of the cogging. Anyway, literally seconds after I'd plugged it in, blow me if the flipping ESC didn't catch fire. Now, I'm not sure if it was anything to do with the programming card. I probably doubt it. It might have been more the fact that I was reaching in to turn the on-off switch on-off. And I might have just touched a couple of wires together that shouldn't have been touched together. I noticed at the back of the motor is obviously a bare metal plate. Now, these wires do or did sit very close to the motor, so I'm wondering if I haven't just touched the two wires on the back of the motor plate and shorted the thing out. But bloody hell, it went up like a bottle of pop, this thing. It did take out the servo as well, and it did obviously took out the ESC. So I have put in, don't know if you can see there, a new ESC. Hang on, new ESC, a new servo. It didn't actually touch any other part of the car, thank God, so everything else survived. I'm just about to take it outside for a quick spin round. The weather's been atrocious here in the UK and everything's quite damp. I'm not going to go mad with it because it isn't my buggy, so I really do not want to damage it for this bloke. I want him to get it in one piece. So we can have a poodle round, a bit of a shakedown, make sure everything works. Hopefully it won't catch fire again. I tell you, there's nothing worse than something like that happening because you just don't trust whatever it is you've done, do you? So, like I say, we're going to take it for a quick poodle round, nothing serious, a shakedown run, and then back inside, and I'll tell you guys what I think. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but you can actually see the rear tyres ballooning out. This thing absolutely is going to rip. Okay, well that was a short test. Back inside, what happened? Well, I lost all drive to the wheels basically. Now when I was outside I thought I'd stripped all the teeth off this spur gear, but luckily I haven't actually damaged anything in the transmission at all. All that's happened is basically this pinion gear was spinning on the shaft. Now when I drilled the grub screw out, I must have left a tiny portion of it at the bottom of the thread. So originally when I was tightening the grub screw up, I wasn't actually, it was coming to a point where it was pressing against the old bit of grub screw that's stuck in the threads. So it felt as though I was tightening it up, but in effect I wasn't. What I was doing is just tightening that little bit of grub screw against the shaft on the motor. So I've run a tap down it and cleaned the old bit of metal out, and now this basically I can tighten this grub screw back up. Anyway, c'est la vie. These things are sent to try us. Better it happen on me than the bloke who I'm building it for. And anyway, that's what a shakedown test's for, to make sure everything's working properly. So like I say, luckily it's a fairly straightforward job. Nothing's broke. It's literally just a little bit of swarf in the end of the threads, just giving me the impression that I've done a proper job. Anyway, I'm going to put it back together, and hopefully we'll go and try it again. Well, that's everything back together. Let's try again. Okay, back inside now. What do we think of our 1240/18 brushless conversion? Well, the honest answer is it is an absolute animal now. I mean, it's much quicker than stock, much quicker. I mean, I know the conditions out there are wet and greasy, really. And I was only really using half throttle. As soon as you give it full throttle, all four wheels start spinning and the thing just goes sideways down the road. It's got loads more to come. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't got time to test it on a dry day because the weather is just against me at the moment. I've got to return it to the chap. But I suppose if you were testing it on a dry day, it'd be different again. But these tyres aren't up to much, really. They're not up to the job. Like I say, as soon as you give it the beans, they just spin up and the thing pirouettes down the road. I can understand why people get addicted to speed runs and making these things go as fast as they possibly can, because it is quite exciting. Probably not very good for your wallet though, long term. I mean, there's plenty more to come out of this as well. I mean, it's only running a 45 amp ESC and 2S. I mean, God only knows what it'd be like if you bumped it up to 120 amp ESC and 3S. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. But it is so much quicker than stock. I would wholeheartedly recommend doing it as well. If you fancy converting an RC, do it. It is quite entertaining. It's quite exciting. You might end up with something that isn't particularly usable at the end of it, though, because I mean, in a straight line, that's probably all it's good for. It is incredibly fierce. I mean, given enough time and a bit more experience, I could probably tone it down a bit, so it's a bit more drivable. But as it stands, this thing's a bit of a beast. I am definitely going to do a future video where I convert one of my own RCs to brushless just for the hell of it. I can then thrash it with impunity then and not really worry about breaking it. This has got to go back to the chap in one piece really. So and the weather conditions are against me as well. It's very slippy out there and it is very quick. So I do not want to end up sending him back two halves of an RC car in the post. I want to make sure that he has the pleasure of destroying it himself. Would I recommend a brushless conversion? Yes, I think you've got to try it at some point. You might make the thing unusable depending on how extreme you end up going, but it is a lot of fun and it is very addictive. I will of course include all the links to the products that I've used in the description below, so if you want any of them you can just give them a click and it should take you straight there. If you found this video of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're feeling that way inclined, hit that subscribe button for more similar future content. Once again, thanks for watching, guys, and catch you again soon. Thank you.